Okay, Post keeps sending me stuff to review, so here we are with some stuff. At least it's interesting. I haven't reviewed headphones in a minute. This is the FiiO FT5, and let's just jump straight into it. I haven't seen headphones to try out new in a while, so I'm interested. And, oh, look at that. It uses the same case as the other FiiO stuff. This seems pretty nice to start out with. Now, these are planar magnetic headphones. I know some of you guys get annoyed when I say planar instead of planar, but there you are. It's planar magnetic. Got a nice leather case. Okay, let's take a look-sees inside, and alright, ooh, these kind of remind me of the Sundaras, actually. Alright, pretty standard headphone, a decently length cable that is braided, comes with an adapter to go to like an XLR in case you want to use balance stuff, but you know, it's also got a 4.4 millimeter connector, and it is changeable to other stuff, which is also included in the package inside the box. See, quarter-inch adapter with 3.5 millimeter, which means we should also have a 3.5 standard cable connector. All right, these can all be stored in here and conveniently velcros into the case, which is kind of nice, so you'll always have your connectors on you. I almost forgot to mention this, but you also get 2 sets of extra pads, which are made of a different material. These ones are suede pads, and this will actually like change up the sound a little bit by giving a little bit more bass compared to, say, like the regular protein leather pads that are on here. But you know, we'll get into sound in a little bit. As for the headphones themselves, they are very well built with a lot of metal construction in here. It is a planar magnetic and open back, as you can tell here with this fancy looking grill. I do like that they decided to go with the pattern, and man, this feels incredibly well built. It's got a good amount of flex to it, really durable. These things can twist relatively okay, and a little bit of swivel for comfort, which is good. Got our markers there. Ear cups feel and look soft, and that's great. Well, I guess looks don't matter for it, but it feels really soft. And in case they get old and you need to replace them, they are replaceable really easily. A little snap-on style, so that's always good for longevity. So I always like seeing that in headphones. Random note, or maybe kind of related, but I keep coming back to these headphones to touch them because they just feel so well built. Something about all these angles and whatnot that are kind of sharp-ish, but not too sharp, and the metal build of them is just really nice. I don't know, I just like holding them, I like feeling them, I like putting it on my head, I like taking them off my head. There's just something about the way it's built, and even like the way they have like the jacks, I don't know, it just feels really good. I'm just kind of a nerd when it comes to, like, I guess, design and materials, though. I don't know. If it makes me pick up my headphones and use them more, I guess that's a good thing. Yeah, random note done. Right now, as far as comfort and fit is concerned, for something that costs like nearly $500 brand new, these are obviously, as I would expect, very comfortable. The suspension band system makes adjusting a head size easy. Pads are thick enough so your ears don't touch the inside of drivers. The swivel is enough for any shaped heads that you won't have too much of an issue when you have it on your head for a good seal. Now, yeah, overall, feels great, and if you're worried about looks, I think they look fine. I think they're pretty cool for like, you know, audiophile headphones. Some audiophile headphones look a little bit out there, but these ones, I think they're nice. They remind me a bit of the Sundaras, but with the way they did the cutout patterns here, I think it's much neater looking. So, you know, there is that, in case you're concerned about, like, fashion and whatnot, in case you're a streamer, I guess. But, yeah, overall, I like it. And after a while of testing out the FT5s in games and music and even movies, some trailers here and there, because Monster Hunter Wilds is going to come out next year, and the trailers are pretty awesome, I can honestly say I greatly enjoy these headphones. And this is kind of interesting, because I typically like very dark kind of sounding headphones, so a lot of, like, deep, dark bassiness to it. And these guys aren't that. They actually have a sound that's pretty typical of what I'd expect out of something that uses planar magnetic drivers and are priced close to $500. These are $450 in case you're wondering, and can often be found for like $350 or $300 if you're lucky. But you know, back on sound, the sound that I expected of something like this is essentially something that is neutral-ish, where there's usually some added warmth to keep things a little bit exciting, and that's essentially what these are. They are neutral-ish sounding headphones with a little bit of added warmth. So in the bass region, you just gotta basically get a little bit more oomph there, a little bit more feel, which is nice to keep things exciting. So if you're a true neutral kind of person, these aren't for you. And also, if you're a bass head, these also aren't for you. For everyone else, I think you guys would enjoy this. Actually, I think the true neutral person wouldn't mind this, because a little excitement wouldn't be so bad. It's not like an intense amount of warmth added, so I guess the person who prefers true neutral would still enjoy this set of headphones. Now, I'm trying not to dig too deep into like audiophile stuff, so let's try to get through this. At the base, to mids to highs, overall just really great
sound quality. You can hear a lot of things, which means the detailing is great. Texture is awesome all around. I feel like there's a lot more of it in the mids, because the mids I do think feel a little bit boosted, but you know, just to bring out certain sounds, particularly voices, tenor range and up and whatnot, but not like lower mid voices. Those were still relatively like balanced, so that's not too bad. That's actually still good. Nothing is particularly recessed, so you can enjoy the entire sound range, and that's actually really nice. I also do think the bass feels super clean, and that is also awesome. While, you know, also because it's not too strong, it can let everything else shine as well. And while some of you guys may feel like this means I'm trying to say these are leaning towards an analytical sound, I wouldn't say they're analytical. They are still very musical, if that makes sense. It's not like digging into nitty-gritty, like itsy-bitsy, like details here and there, but it does let you pick apart sounds well because it has such a good soundstage. It's open, you know, open back, that makes sense, huge ass soundstage, and it utilizes it very well by giving you a pretty decent amount of space between all the sounds, so the sound separation is also really good. I have heard better sound separation, but there's still a good degree of it. I wouldn't say there's like an incredible amount of air between all the sounds, so it's not the most airy sounding set, but that's not necessarily bad. The fact still remains that I'm able to like differentiate sounds happening pretty decently, all the while not like forcing all these details at you to the point where it becomes very sterile and boring. And then I guess that brings us to the highs. Those don't get too spicy, which I personally like, but it still gives you a good range of the highs, so you can hear all the details without them like attacking your ears so violently. So, you know, if you're afraid of spicy sounds, you're gonna be okay. It doesn't get like too spicy, it doesn't really get sibilant, so that's great. It handles the highs very well, even for someone who's kind of afraid of highs like myself. Now, the sound I just described for the FT5 is technically slightly tunable by using like the other pads it comes with, which are like the suede pads. These will add a bit more oomph in the low end. It gives you more sub bass, at least noticeably more sub bass than anything else. And this does affect the rest of the sound a bit, as the mids and highs don't shine quite as much as like the low end starts coming out a bit more. If I were to just use the right, you know, the basic protein leather pads, then, you know, you get the tuning that you currently get. And, you know, this will then kind of dictate what you may prefer using when you're using it for different situations, depending on your use cases. Now, use case wise, I can already say that these things were awesome all around. I'm gonna start with like where I enjoyed them the most, which is non-competitive stuff, as well as like watching videos and trailers and movies and whatnot. Because what I first felt that these things were awesome was when I was watching the Monster Hunter Wilds trailer, the second one, and that was a really cinematic experience with these headphones. It was just awesome watching that. It made me feel things. I don't know, it was cool. And so, you know, that doesn't translate to like just playing games that are like non-competitive, more open world. It's very immersive in sound. It is incredibly enjoyable just because of the way it draws you in and makes you have this enormous realistic feel of the world. And, you know, that's always great for immersion. The way it presents the sound with that, you know, neutral leaning slight warmth, I think does give you a natural representation of sound. So then like things just kind of feel right in that kind of realm, you know what I mean? And if you've been on my channel, you know I review a lot of IEMs and whatnot, and I use them for like competitive, non-competitive stuff. No matter what, generally speaking, almost like all the time, I will always prefer open back style headphones for non-competitive stuff, because none of the IEMs can really touch the immersion I get on these headphones, or just any headphones that are open back. And as you can imagine, I did have an inclination to try using like the suede pads when it was non-competitive stuff and more open worldy kind of stuff, just for that added bass, because sometimes in those situations I did feel that it made the world just feel larger with that oomph. But other times I tried it without it and I just used like the regular pleather pads, and it was fine. I didn't mind either or, but it really depended on the game. Like if the game was rather large and I really wanted to make it feel really big, the impact I got from the bass was really nice with the suede pads. But even then, I still had a great time with the pleather pad, so it's really up to taste and how you want to, like, you know, hear things, I guess. Because with the pleather ones, I will say I felt like the details were more noticeable, so like more of the rustling of grass and other little things like footsteps and whatnot. Now, on the other hand, when it comes to competitive stuff, I typically prefer IEMs. That's because the realism that you get from open backs could sometimes be a drawback for you. Like, I'm not saying that these aren't any good for competitive games, because I did use these to play more competitive games, and it did a great job tracking, as you can imagine. With the large soundstage and the really great sound separation and the imaging being really accurate, it's a good time tracking people. However, the further people get away, the quieter and the fainter those sounds do get, because it is trying to give you that more realistic like representation of sound. Therefore, with that larger field to work with for the soundstage, if things are far, it'll be represented as far, and that sound might be faint and you might miss it. The idea is essentially like you will have a good time playing competitive games, and you still will do like, you know, you'll still do a pretty okay job tracking people. I just think that it doesn't give you the same edge that you would get on a lot of IEMs, which can bring those sounds a little bit closer, you know what I mean? That way you can get like that early advantage of hearing something far away early on. Granted, with like the smaller soundstage, your brain does have to compensate and calculate those distances. So if you're not used to that and you start on these, or like any headphones that are kind of open back with a large stage, then you'll be a little bit more acclimated to it. It's just that you would have to listen very, very carefully and be very keen to listen for sounds that may be far away, and, you know, if any enemies sneaking up on you or just in the perimeter as you're entering an area. With IEMs, those sounds will just kind of like catch your attention much earlier, just because of the way the sound is presented with that small stage. So yeah, are they usable and pretty good for competitive games? Honestly, yes. Well, it's just that, you know, you won't get that advantage that you may get from certain IEMs, so there is that. Personally, I do think that if you're a competitive gamer and you do like playing really sweaty, you'd still enjoy it. You'd still have a good time, and it wouldn't be much like of a big deal. Though if you're someone who likes that extra, like, you know, advantage of that sound coming at you a little bit earlier, so you can grab your attention versus you having to like listen ultra mega super duper carefully, then maybe these won't be like the most ideal things for you. But as you know, you can see in the world of like gaming, a lot of people do like using like open bags for competitive anyway, and they're just used to that kind of sound. But I personally would switch to IEMs just for that slight advantage, because I'm not the greatest gamer in the world, so I'll take any advantage I can get. Because the difference between me playing against a person who's like me, if one had the headphones and one had the IEMs, one of us is going to hear each other earlier, so that will be the advantage. And then you can like set up sneak attacks and whatnot, or run away. Depends on how I'm doing in the game at the time, I suppose. Now, if you are going to be using these headphones for competitive stuff and you're really into it, you want to maximize your like advantages by essentially switching out the pads from the suede to the pleather ones, the smooth ones. That way you have a little less space, and it allows the mids and the highs to shine a lot more, to give you a lot more details, thereby giving you a slight more information and a better advantage in tracking people, or at least, you know, giving you the sounds that you typically track for. Those will shine a little bit more than they would if you used on the suede pads. Granted, you could use like the suede ones because it is a bit more fun and engaging on some occasions, but if you're really going hard sweat and you still really want to like, use these headphones, then, you know, the pleather pads are the way to go. Alright, now with all this being said, these things I think are absolutely great for being all around headphones. They just do everything very well. For most people out there, I think these will do perfectly fine for anything you throw at it. And for the regular person, I do think it's extremely like good. But the regular person, I don't know if they would want to spend, you know, $450. And you might be spending more, because there is a caveat to these headphones. These have an impedance of about 36 ohms, and, you know, that's not incredibly high. That's pretty low, honestly. What does this mean? So this essentially means it requires a little bit more juice than some people may be used to throwing at their headphones. Like if you plug these in, like to say like your PC header or something like that, you may find yourself boosting your volume a little bit more than you're used to, just to get these things enough juice to have an adequate amount of sound for you to like listen to the things you want to listen to. And depending on what you're using, this could be not the most ideal situation, because as you increase the volume that way to headphones, sometimes you kind of introduce a little bit of noise, you know, the little like electronic humming, hissing sound in the background. That kind of happens if you're like power source for audio isn't the greatest. So ideally, you would at least have some sort of like amp or DAC amp to plug this into. That way you get more like cleaner, better power, and just better audio overall. Like you can run them without like a specialized amp. I just think it's much more preferable to have a nice amp to give you a cleaner sound, you know? Now then, back to whether the FT5s are worth it or not. Personally, as someone who's like kind of an audiophile but more of a gamer, I do think I can say these are pretty worth it for the price. It is a pretty penny to pay, but if I didn't have, like, you know, my current headphones right now, I can imagine using these as, like, my end games for the time being, because they are just so good at doing everything. The only people I can imagine who wouldn't like it are, like I mentioned before, just bass heads, but everyone else, these could be your end game tier. The only people who wouldn't use these as their end game tier are, you know, actual audiophiles. They have much fancier tastes, but for a regular person who like kind of likes to dabble in hi-fi audio a bit and plays games and whatnot, these are really awesome for the price right now. And $450, I still would kind of hesitate, I guess, but sometimes these do go on sale. Luckily, there is, you know, sometimes you'll find them refurbished. APO sent these out to me. This doesn't affect my review in any way, shape, or form. I should probably mention that first, but I should mention they do have a refurbished section for these things that are certified by them, so that helps a lot. So if you want to purchase these guys, I'll leave a link in the description. I'll even leave a link to like the refurbished thing in case you want to like you're okay with things that are refurbished, and you don't care about if they're brand new or not. So I just put it down there. These are affiliate links. Gives me a kickback and commission or whatnot so that I can help run this channel, essentially. And yeah, it's basically all I have for today. I like these headphones a lot, honestly. I just wish I can keep them, but you know, I gotta send them back. That's just kind of how reviews work a lot of the time. So see you guys next time.